Okay, looks like we're ready to go. All sound levels up, everything functioning. We're here. All right. So far, we've done an introduction to the whole book, a little background on the author herself, coming from Taiwan, coming from China, steeped in Eastern tradition, thick black theory, which is the concept upon which this book is based. And she's taken it and put it into Western form, communicable Western form, something that can be communicated to Westerners, not being brought up in China. It would be difficult to understand, she says, and I agree, to understand the basic concepts. And if you understand languages, especially Chinese, which is really character driven, right? A different character representing all different things out there, different things in existence, basically. I have a friend who writes in Chinese and Japanese, which is very strange and confusing. But yeah, that language is very, very interesting and very unique in the sense that it's so image oriented. You know, you have these, not so much letters, but graphic images, if you will. So anyways, talked a little bit about that, a little bit about the background. We talked about chapter 1, which is the essence of thick-faced black heart, understanding the two terms, thick-faced black heart. And then we did the unlearning chapter, which is chapter 2, preparation for thick-faced black heart. Now we're doing Dharma. Dharma is actually chapters 3 and 4. It's the foundation. So you've learned the terms, thick-faced black heart. You've learned to unlearn some things so that you can discover and uncover the concept of thick-faced black heart, which, according to the author, resides within us. So it's not so much a learning from outside, but a discovery or an uncovering from within. And I can tell you from personal experience, that's what happened to me. I had been doing this or following these concepts for many, many years, probably 10, 12 years. And then a marketing coach of mine, suggested this book, and I read it, and I'm going, it blew my mind. I was writing notes in the margins, left and right, just going, yes, yes, amazing, me too, I can't believe it, wow. I was connecting with probably 80, 90, or already knew 80, 90% of the book. And her writing it out, actually enabled me and others to actually see and to put it to terms so that we can visualize and see what it is that we've been doing, kind of not unconsciously, but subconsciously, just doing it, not really putting labels to it or really thinking about it too much, kind of an instinctive, intuitive flavor, I guess you could say. So now to really solidify it, to bring it home, you read the book and understand more specifically as she explains things, the terminology, the keywords and phrases, the definitions, the explanation of the abstract through specific examples, her own, others, those that she knows, and those who are foreign to her, but nevertheless, she'll use, I think, Reagan and Jimmy Carter and Lincoln and other well-known people to explain or to make visual that kind of relatively vague concept that's kind of in the abstract in our minds and make it more specific and concrete. So that's what we're doing here, making it more specific and concrete. I am not a coach of thick-faced black heart. I am not really even a practitioner of it, in the sense that I've practiced it and gone through it methodologically and, figured out some type of coaching approach to apply in my life and then to pass it on to others. That's not what I've done, and it's not what I'm doing here. What I'm doing here is just dispensing some. You want to be a information gathering guru, guru of you, help yourself, as they say. Help yourself. You know, you're at the buffet of life, of improving life, right? And this is just that one serving at the buffet of life, or some people say buffet, the buffet of life, along with As a Man Thinketh, which I've already done, and The Law of Success in 16 Lessons by Napoleon Hill, right? So these three books, I call them the Holy Trinity of achievement, right? To really move forward and try to achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve. And it might not be on a great grand scale. You might not be going off and starting some company or a business, or, you know, writing books and something thematically and deep and profound for the greater public, the greater good, but it might be something even more private and personal to you. It might be just, you know, your career. Maybe it's a humble career. Maybe you're a kindergarten teacher, whatever. I saw my son's kindergarten teacher applies. She probably doesn't even know it, but she applies a lot of these principles. You know, the way that she is, the way that she functions and interacts with others, right? So let's move forward. As I said before, there's two Dharma chapters: the wish-fulfilling tree, Dharma, and destiny. So I'm going to kind of go over both of them today. You get about 20 pages on this, and about 20 pages on chapter 4. Then after that, I'll probably do chapter 5, which is Winning Through Negative Thinking, 6, Magical Power of Endurance, Mystery of Money, not really sure, Deception and Deceit, no, Noble Attributes of Work, sure, Advantage of Playing the Fool, probably not, Thriving Among the Cunning and Ruthless. Some of these I'm just going to Acquiring the Killer Instinct. I'll do that one. Thick-Face Black Heart Leadership. I'm not really going to do that chapter because it's not a chapter that she wrote herself. She basically takes the philosophy of military leaders and just lists their philosophies in that chapter, chapter 13, right? Then the last three chapters, 14, 15, 16, are really applying this concept, using it, doing Thick-Face Black Heart, right? It's good to sit down and academically, it's good to sit down and theoretically go through this, but then you have to physically go out into the world and act upon the world, and that's what this is about. It's more about action than theory, right? But it's good to understand it, especially to put labels to it so you can really, truly see it and speak it. Anytime you can see something and speak it through definitions and terms and visualize it, make it more concrete and obvious and evident, then it becomes more empowering and powerful to you, right? Rather than just kind of some kind of vague nebulous thing. Yeah, what do you do? Well, I do kind of stuff and things, you know, and the stuff and the things, you know. Now you'll have some terms, you'll have some concepts that you can remember and apply. So anyway, she goes over, this is basic introductory stuff. I'm an English professor, so I'll also be hitting upon that. Maybe some day I get requests to maybe do a video or 2 or 3, I don't know, on writing, how to write and go about it. I've written, and someday I'll go over my writings as well. I've written 9 books, I think 10, I've lost track. Hundreds of articles, poems, humor, all kinds of stuff, online essays and so forth and so on, or online copy. I've been a copywriter, a lot of different things, wearing a lot of different hats. Anyways, the word Dharma comes from Sanskrit, the oldest language in the world, and one which originated in ancient India. So once again, this is the basic introductory technique, defining, and in this case, definitions, word definitions. We're going into the etymology. Etymology is really kind of the background or the history of a word or words, right? It has been confirmed by leading Western linguists that Sanskrit is the root of virtually all known languages, according to Hindu mythology, the language spoken by the gods. Dharma came from the root word dar, which means to, so this is the etymology of the word, support, hold, nourish. So Dharma is often defined as that which supports life. It is a sustaining force of the world, the divine coherence of the universe. Dharma is the understanding of appropriate action for any given circumstance. And this is what I'm talking about. It's kind of like intuition. What's your intuition? What's your Dharma? What is being told to you by that unknown voice? Some say it's instinct. Some say it's intuition. Some say it's a spiritual presence, you know, a Holy Ghost, God. You know, you can put your religious label of choice on there, right? Doesn't matter what you call it, but you get the idea, right? It's kind of more of a feeling, a sixth sense, right? There's another term, right? Kind of a sixth sense, right? It means to act in accordance with one's duty. Each person, depending on his, and again, she mentions in the beginning that she would be using male pronouns for whatever reason, right? She's old school. We'll have a different Dharma. For example, a warrior's Dharma is to slay the enemies of his nation. A physician's Dharma is to save lives, even the lives of his enemies. Interesting. These two actions, although completely different, are both correct. And if you remember the master, right? He tells his student he's making pancakes, right? And everyone that comes out, they're kind of gourd shaped or octagonal or whatever shape, you know, comes out. And each one that comes out, he puts it down and he lays it down on the plate. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And his students are like, how can every pancake be perfect? You know, because that particular pancake is perfect because it is what it is in its own particular form. Just like each one of us allegedly we're like snowflakes in the sense that no snowflake is the same. I don't know if that's true. I've never really looked at snowflakes, but we'll say it's true. People are like that, right? We have a lot of overlapping and similarities, but at the same time, there's enough uniqueness in us, right? That will help us to differentiate one from another, right? If Dharma is followed, the world will be in harmony with the natural law. There you go. Instinct, sixth sense, intuition, right? And Einstein said about intuition is everything. Knowledge is helpful and learning things is helpful, but since we are limited in the extreme in our time and our mental capacity and our strength, that ultimately we have to put the books down and stop learning, or else we're never going to do anything, right? And at times we have to go with our intuition. Some of the greatest discoveries, theory of relativity, case in point, or quantum physics, right? Those came through leaps of faith, if you will, where there's no direct bridge, but an idea came, you know, a eureka, you know, and that's how discoveries are made, right? Foundation of thick-faced black heart. In order to successfully become a righteous thick-faced black heart practitioner, the awareness of Dharma must be constantly in one's consciousness, right? Therefore, you know, and I've gone over this stuff and the three texts, the three books that I mentioned dozens of times, right? So it just kind of starts to seep into your being, right? You start to know, so well, like I've been teaching 22 years, I've lost track. So I don't even have to do any prepping for class anymore. I don't prep for these videos. I've spoken on this stuff hundreds, thousands of times, you know, I don't know, many times, right? And that's how you learn, that's how you do, and that's how you maximize your potential. Potentially master or move towards mastering something. Just keep doing it over and over. I played a lot of sports, football, baseball, basketball. And basketball, for example, I go out into the yard and I would take 100 shots. If I didn't make 80%, I'd start over. Each time I knew I wasn't going to hit 80%, I'd start over. And guess what? After a while, I was more consistently so as time passed, hitting 80% or higher of my shots. Just running around, taking layups and 10-footers and 15-footers and 20-footers, you know, fadeaways and one-handers and two-handers and whatever, right? And eventually, you know, you practice something enough like that, it becomes intuitive. And I used to play basketball after practicing a lot, and I would go down the lane and pass or shoot or do something, and it was just intuitive. It was instinctual. And the ball would go in, and I go, what the hell did I do? You know, you're not even really conscious or aware of it because you know it so well. that's kind of what happens here. If you practice this, if you practice life's necessities enough, right? Achievement is one thing that you want to practice. How can I achieve? How can I know me better, understand me better, define myself better, get myself understood through specific terms? I am an open-ended, abstract, creative thinker who likes to problem solve on a large scale, and I have a tough time on a smaller scale and an intimate scale. That's why I have an easier time fixing the problems of, like, my students in the aggregate, in the collective, than I do fixing my own kids' problems. Not that I don't do that, but that doesn't come as instinctive for whatever reason, right? And if you take that Briggs-Myers typology test, or the Jung, J-U-N-G, the Carl Jung typology test, it really helps you to put terms to who you are. And then if you can really see yourself by putting terms to it's kind of like putting yourself in the mirror. Those terms pop up. It's like those words are a mirror, reflecting back to you, reflecting back to you more specifically, more clearly, more concretely, more emphatically, with more power, who you are. You don't know who you are, how are you going to maximize your potential to be who you are? It's kind of common sense, right? Otherwise, as mentioned in chapter 1, you will become an unconscionable, thick-faced black heart practitioner who is willing to win, or, immoral, I guess you could say, willing to win at all costs, but without any regard for consequences to other people. This is why in chapter 2, there is the concept of self-inquiry, right? How am I doing? Am I improving? What do I need to improve on? Fill out the list, check the list. If I'm improving on, I've got a list of 10, 12 things I got to do. I've improved on 3, good, I'm moving forward. But I kind of fell back on these 2, so I have to watch myself a little more, right? And at first you can kind of do it in that way, a more, I don't know, stagnant's not the word, but a more point by point, kind of training wheels way of doing it, point by point, seeing it, writing it down, doing that stuff. But after a while, it's like anything. You just begin to do these things more intuitively, more instinctively, right? As you would do anything, just like I was explaining basketball, and then I started doing things unconsciously, right? Almost unconsciously. I mean, consciously, subconsciously. Only by maintaining the awareness of Dharma will we begin to gain insight into what is required for proper discrimination. There you go. In thought and in action. Right? People who practice Dharma accept life as it comes and perform their duty accordingly. So that's kind of what the master was talking about, right? Just accept things as they come. Don't try to force your hand. Don't try to be too anal retentive about things, or anal compulsive. That's a Freudian term for you non-Freudian people, which is, you're too controlling. You can only control so much. So much of life and what happens and people and other people is out of your control. It's if you've had kids, you'll know what I mean. And I've had kids, I've had students, I've had a lot of contact with the general public, and you just kind of have to let things go. It's a free country too. It's not a fascist communist country, so we kind of go based on the concept of independence and freedom and liberty of choice, freedom of choice and liberty. Right? Dharma is a natural law which guides us to recognize at any given moment the role of each of us playing in life. This was stated before. Being true to the duty of that particular role at any given time, in the very act of accepting it and performing that action to the best of our ability, that is following Dharma. So it's kind of going by instinct, by gut instinct. There's another, I didn't use that one yet, by gut instinct, by intuition, right? And you have to develop it. Listen to it. You become a guru of you, right? That's what I tell my students. I don't know, I kind of help you, guide you, but really you're gonna have to do the work. I do the tip of the iceberg. I do 10%, 5%, 1%, I don't know, very, very minimal. But ultimately, it's up to you to do the 90%, the hard work, because nobody else can do it for you, because you're you and you spend more time with you than anybody else does, right? You know you better than you. You know what you want, you know what you need, you know your changing needs and wants. That act will become our protector and savior. How about that? That concept of those words, right? Following Hindu story demonstrates the practicality of this concept. So now she brings a story in here about the two frogs, right? Swimming. Oh, this is the one where they form. Yeah, they're in what is it? Butter or melted butter? Is it? What is it? I don't know. Cream or something, right? And the father gives up, and the son just keeps moving his feet, and then it makes butter, and he walks out of there. Dharma works for humans just as it does for frogs. 17 years ago, Leslie was a teenager and used to help me clean my house. In exchange for piano lessons 5 years ago, I talked with her mother and asked how Leslie was doing, as I had not seen her for many years. It was then I learned this following fantastic story, the miracle power of Dharma, right? Again, you can read that. If you don't have the book, again, you can get this online for free, right? Just type in thick face, black card, PDF. That's how I got this. It's out there for free. It's in the public arena. It's not anything that's 80 years and older is free online if it's out there, if it's been put out there. You don't have to pay for it, right? So this is become free because the author is no longer living. I mean, it's not 80 years old. It's not. I don't know when she published it. In the 70s, 80s, I forget, 90s. I don't know. But anyways, so this is the little story, and I'm not going to, as I said before, I'm not going to go through all the anecdotes or the evidence. This is the developmental section of the essay, of the chapter, right, of the book. And these stories, she's generally using stories, little anecdotes, those of her own or those not known to the general public, or maybe some known to the general. Mostly she's using stories. She doesn't really use data, statistics, experts. Sometimes she does, but she's really basically kind of going with anecdotal evidence, but usually on a larger scale. Anyways, thick-faced black card practitioners are vigorous in pursuing the righteousness of their action, the rightness, sorry, of their actions. They question themselves in each and every situation. What is my dharma at this moment? Just as we have mentioned before, the dharma of a warrior is the opposite of a physician, yet they are both correct, right? And if you argue with people, if you differ with people, if you're online trying to force others to be and think and act as you do, stop it right now. Just stop it, right? You're not going to convert the world, right? Right. I was online one time, and this happens frequently to me. And I mention my opinion and tell people they should do it my way and not theirs. And then nobody does it. Yeah, I'll do it that way. Sure, buddy, said no one ever, right? I don't think I have yet to convince or see anyone come to my side or to change their opinion, right? People are pretty stubborn, right? They're very prideful and not open to criticism. That's kind of don't blame people for that. That's kind of self-protective, right? That's generally why people do that. They don't want to feel vulnerable. They don't want to feel that what they know or what they think or what they feel or what they've believed, especially for a long time, 5, 10 years more, is wrong. That could shake their lives to the very core. Just think of, here's a good example. The Matrix, right? Morpheus and Trinity and those outside of the Matrix who've learned what the Matrix is come to Neo because he's questioning. It's kind of like a religious concept, and the two brothers that wrote the Matrix are steeped in Western and Eastern theology or philosophy, right? Like Dharma, like the Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Christianity. It's all Trinity. Come on. Nebuchadnezzar, right, is the king in the Old Testament, one of the kings in the Old Testament. And the Oracle, she's kind of like a Zen Buddhist philosopher, right? You notice that she doesn't tell Neo anything. She goes, you seem to you seem to have doubt about you being the chosen one. Are you? He goes, no, I don't think so. And then she says, well, you have the gift, but you seem to be waiting for something. And he didn't even realize that she was telling him, yeah, you're the one. Right? That's what we do all the time, right? We get so wrapped up in our own thoughts and our own beliefs. I don't know if it's ignorance, laziness, we do it to protect ourselves or whatever, right? That we just never venture forth to change our minds and to really see things. And I'm not saying I don't do that. Of course, we all do, right? But you want to limit the amount of times that you do that. Be a little more open-minded, a little more humble, a little more patient, a little more knowing of your shortcomings, that we're all equal in our infinite ignorance, right? Einstein knew that. He says, what I don't know is way greater than what I do know. So I do know that even my theories at some point will be disproven, and that's fine. That's science. Science is open. Right? They question themselves in each and every situation, just as we have mentioned here. Mentioned before, the Dharma of a warrior is the opposite of physicians. Read that. On the other hand, if a warrior refuses to kill and a physician refuses to save, then both actions would be insupportable. By being true to their Dharma, their actions will be guided by the rhythm of natural law, which will protect and support all their efforts, right? Then she talks about the grace of Dharma, Dharma of a debtor and a creditor. So now she starts to get into some stories, some anecdotal evidence to kind of make the abstract explanations about Dharma that we've just gone over, basically, kind of like definitions, or term analysis and understanding definitionally, right? So, people learn best through stories, don't they? Remember your stories, you like those stories or fables, or, Jesus always taught through stories, right? The greatest teachers and the greatest conveyors of knowledge oftentimes will lay out a story, right? I was watching something the other day. It was a movie about, based on, I can't think of the New Orleans Saints coach who got the target gate. Is that what it was? He was targeting, having his players target players in the opposite team, right? So he was gone for a season. And I forget the guy who played, he's a comedian, but he goes off and he has to do something. So he ends up coaching his son's team, right? And he realizes at one point, and a lot of what he realized is kind of like what you'll realize, or not realize, but the way that you have to be or think, right? Don't be prideful, don't be open, don't be stubborn, understand your limitations, that you don't know everything. And even if you've been told something, you don't know if it's true, or if it's still true. Maybe it was true then, maybe it's less true now. Maybe you've changed, maybe the facts have changed, I don't know. Sean Payton, I think, is the coach, and some comedian, big guy, was playing the coach in the movie. And he realizes a lot of things, that he can't be as dogmatic as he thinks he should be. Maybe working as a professional in the NFL, he's given that power. But then he realizes outside of work, and this is basically kind of for work, right? But he realizes outside of work, he has to think or feel or do differently, right? Community time, family time, not the same thing as work environment, right? Anyway, so you got some, several examples of the Dharma works. So here we got John, story about John, right? Then we get the story about a debtor and a creditor. Then you got George over here. George is an important officer at the Pentagon, right? And she goes through these various stories to kind of, those three stories to develop or to bring home the points that she's made so far in this chapter, right? The battle must be fought. Each one of us is a warrior in our own right. I'm always going to be throwing in the writing knowledge, I guess, once a college English professor, always an English professor. We are the warriors of life, and life is an eternal battle. We choose to enter the battlefield from the day we are born. We do? Well, I guess if you don't go hide in the basement or run off into the woods. We are committed to win the battle of life, just like a warrior in the midst of the fierce fight, there is no way out. So this is kind of the warrior theme, right? Thick-faced, black-hearted concept that will help you in the battles of life, right? He can choose to fight courageously to ensure his survival and victory, or he can choose to get killed. We do not have to like the fight. We simply have to fight to the best of our abilities. To survive in life, we have to confront the inner negativities and the outer realities. I have a friend. So now she goes on and uses more anecdotes or examples, right? Here's another one, a soldier's Dharma. So she's got a lot of anecdotes. Here's another one, guiding force, kneel, right? A salesman's Dharma, another anecdote. Know thy Dharma. Now she gets back into the descriptive, right? Or the definitional. I am totally convinced whatever your occupation, you will do well if you can properly identify your Dharma for that job. A chair, to be useful, must understand its Dharma. Is that right, Mr. Chair? He ain't talking, but I think I'm so excited. I'm getting a new chair and desk. This chair is old. The wheels are falling off. It's pretty sad. A chair, to be useful, must understand its Dharma and be willing to let people sit on it. The pencil is useful, only useful when the pencil carries out the Dharma of the pencil. If the chair refuses to let people sit on it, or the pencil refuses to perform its writing function, they are useless, right? When a manufacturing engineer is hired to create new products but insists on sharing his wisdom and accounting with the company controller, he is not going to last long in that company, right? The opposite of Dharma is adharma. It's kind of like, what's the, like energy, negative energy, protons and antons, antiprotons, whatever it's called. The term escapes me at the moment. Matter, antimatter. There we go. Sorry, I haven't watched Star Trek in a while. Matter, antimatter. Dharma, adharma, right? So kind of the opposite, which is defined as going against one's proper duty in life, right? And rescriptation. So now she goes on and gives more explanation and more detail. There she got right into the story, right? Gives more definitions, more examples, right? Here's another one, Solomon Brothers, a lot of those, right? Mrs. Chen was Japanese. Trial and error. To discover the right action at any given moment in your life is not an easy task. Even the best people do not always know their Dharma in accordance with their destiny. Often we discover our Dharma through trial and error. And then St. Francis of Assisi. So she explains that, right? Conclusion, Dharma is the natural law which guides the rightness. I always want to say righteousness. The rightness, that might be righteousness, partially, of our actions, and as the foundation of thick-based black heart. By pursuing Dharma, our life will unfold naturally and thus produce the proper fruit at each given stage of our life. By living under the grace and guidance of Dharma, life itself becomes the eternal wish-fulfilling tree, right? Here's your summary of key points. And I've mentioned before, the summaries are great because once you read through everything, you read the concepts and then you understand the concepts through the evidence or the supporting evidence. And here her developmental form is usually through examples, right? Exemplification. That's 80-90% of what she uses, right? So after you've read through it, read the examples, read the concepts, and then read the examples, excuse me, and you want to come back and maybe see if you got it right and better understand it, it's great to come to the summary, all right? Because it's very brief, right? And that's what summaries are, right? Brief reinterpreting of what is said in the specific text or text. So then we have Dharma and destiny, right? Many teachers preach that you must do what you love, then you will be very good at your job. This is only part of the story. Most people have not reached, this is my life, clear state of realizing exactly what they do love to do and what they are good at. And I think a lot of people know, a lot of my students, a lot of my clients, they know, but they think that they can't do what they love, right? I had one student say to me, she was very frustrated. And I said, what's wrong? She goes, well, I love writing. And I'm majoring in whatever it was, fill in the blank. Because I know, writing doesn't pay. I said, what do you mean? Writing, you could do technical writing. You could make money in the technical field, in the computer field, the IT field, right? Internet technology. You can do writing plays, you can write novels, you can write short stories, you can be a copywriter, content, online, writing for companies that are trying to sell stuff, right? There's dozens of things. I said, just look up writing jobs. Have you done that? She goes, no. I said, why? And maybe you do want to become a novelist or, I don't know, a screenplay writer or whatever, right? Those things are difficult to achieve, and you sometimes have to do some things that you don't want to do. Like there's a lot of writers I know, they say, I write, what are they, is it dogs or cats? I forgot what it is. I write for the dog so I can keep my cats, or something like that, right? So the dogs means it goes to the dog, right? The dogs that's the writing she doesn't really want to do, right? She likes her kitties, right? And eventually she just wants to write the cats, right? Cat stories, I guess. So that's the thing, right? You don't necessarily, you're not as limited as you think you are, right? Oftentimes, right? So a lot of people don't know what they want to do. Some people do know what they want to do and what they are about, but they don't follow it because they're not given any support in that direction, right? Maybe you're told by parents, teachers, friends, whomever, oh, you can't do that. Don't do that. Be a fill in the blank, doctor, lawyer, engineer. Don't do that thing that you know you are and would love to do. Don't live your life and be miserable and do something you don't want to do. Yeah, that'll be great. And again, you're going to have broken dreams. Not everything's going to work out perfectly, but if you try hard enough and if you work hard enough, I'm an example of that, right? I've written a lot of stuff, and I still continue to write, right? This is kind of like writing too, but verbally, expressing ideas verbally instead of on the page. So I'm always doing, tomorrow I got a class, I'm going to start teaching that, same thing there. I'm going to talk about something I love to do, which is writing, right? Also thinking, critical thinking. Also economics, I teach that. I teach self-improvement, kind of this stuff here, achievement stuff, right? I've taught, I'll be all right. I've taught ethics, philosophy, economics, what else? Constitution, law of the land, money, talked about money, the money system, government, taxes, taxation, banking, right? Constitution, law of the land at the local, state, federal level. It's great stuff. It's very mind expanding. I rarely get bored because of the diversity of the things that I do. And believe me, you get old enough, you keep doing the same thing over and over again. Good Lord. It's time to call it quits. At least me. I have a very low threshold. Is that though right? I could get that wrong. Yeah, low threshold for boredom. I get bored quickly. Anyways, most people have not achieved a clear state of realizing exactly what they love to do and what they're good at. These people need to go through a period of discovery. Most people, probably. The familiar question, what do you want to be when you grow up, is not an easy question to answer, even for adults. If you feel you are stuck in your work right now, whatever it is, keep on doing it with dedication and devotion. You were not placed, and I've had students and clients read this and they go, man, I hated my job. I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't deal with the people. I want to kill my boss and everybody I work with. I go, don't say that out loud, please. I go, no, I'm, not really, but it's frustrating. And then I read this, and man, it changed my mind, changed everything. And now I go to work with a proper mindset, right? It's not the outside circumstances that dictate to you how you should be and think and feel, but how you want to be and think and feel, right, is determined by you, regardless of the outside circumstances to a great degree. That's not 100% possible, but you can control it and put it in your wheelhouse the majority of time, right? Now, and if you really do work at this stuff, people will respect you, right? And part of that respect comes from doing the right thing, being honorable, being truthful, following through. You say you're going to do something, you do it, right? Boy Scout, Girl Scout, all those principles, right? You were not placed in that position entirely by accident. These are lessons there for you to learn. I've had in my lifetime a couple dozen different jobs, all kinds of different jobs, right? When I was younger, and even, you know, when things didn't work out in the computer field, and then we had the end of the Cold War, and that got rid of a lot of defense contracts for GE and Pratt Whitney, and a lot of jobs. You know, this is what was that, late 80s, early 90s, right? And there was a serious economic downturn. That's when I was laid off, and many other people. And I was working all these part-time jobs, like raising money online for charitable organizations, or delivering mailers on the weekend, or whatever, you know, these part-time jobs. And I run into a lot of people. You know, I run into some like accountants and engineers and programmers like myself, you know. So you have to do something, right? You have to understand. That's another thing. You have to understand what out there is going to change things. You have to, if you understand how banks work and the banking system, and how the elites work, and how our government works, you could see to the greatest degree what was going to happen in 2008 with the fraud from the subprime market collapse, right? It was mostly instigated by our government policies. You know, and maybe someday I'll go into that. I don't want to go into it now. There's a lot of detail there, right? But anyways, so then she says, take me, for example. So she's got a little anecdote for you there, right? About our book, the success of the book. By simply being aware that there is a divine plan, you don't have to, if you're not religious, just the universe has given you a plan, or your mom, dad, I don't know, yourself. You shoot yourself, the divine, the universe, whatever the source may be, right? For your life that awaits to unfold in the course of life itself, you will begin to be consciously in tune with every incident that comes into your professional and personal life. True to a greatest degree, maybe not every, but most, if not many, right? Treat each incident with the eye of a good detective and try to unveil the mystery. So I tell my students, clients, you have to be a schmolder, not a schmuck. You know what a schmolder is? A Scully and a Mulder. Remember X-Files? They're both FBI agents. You have to be looking for clues. Be an FBI agent, right? You're sifting for clues, right? A good detective, and try to unveil the mystery of your fate, right? This is the first and most essential Dharma in discovering your destiny and your life path, right? The answer the most asked questions. How can I find out what kind of occupation is best suited for me? Examine the following list, right? And then you can go through this list yourself, right? A good list to go over and to memorize and to write down, and maybe fill out a list periodically every week or two, or maybe monthly. I don't know, whatever schedule you want to put it on, right? These are great things in the list. Should I go through them? Yeah, maybe I'll do a little bit. While performing your duties, utilize thick space, black heart, and strive to see in your mind and your soul the vocation that will satisfy. Yeah, it's kind of like self-examination, self-inquiry, right? Give everything up to the job, number 2, that you were doing. By doing so, you will feel good about yourself. And this is kind of the stuff that my students and clients started to do, right? You know, maybe your job is unimportant, but your effort and dedication will uplift you and give you greater daily satisfaction. 3, by diligently performing your duty, you may shorten the time it will take to learn whatever lesson await you from working in that position. 4, do not get discouraged. Know that everything you ever learn from life, and this is true, almost every job, from the most minimal and meaningless, seemingly meaningless, right, to the midland, and then to the great and the grand, you know, they all have lessons, stuff that you can learn from. And a lot of times it's the job, not just the job, the abstract job, but you learn from what you do, how you act and function and think and respond. and how you interact with others on that same level, right? All good stuff. Follow your Dharma above all. Life cannot withhold from you what is rightfully yours. Patience is a great virtue. Isn't that one of the great virtues? Dharma of acceptance and surrender. Once a good commander. So again, she's giving you some anecdotes, and then she goes into her examples when I was writing my last book, right? Then at the bottom here, last paragraph, the small one before the next section. Learn the Dharma of acceptance and surrender, because you never know what awaits you in its intricate and mysterious weavings. She's good. She's a good writer, right? Then she gives another anecdote, or some anecdotes here. She brings in Margaret Thatcher, right? I think she's already mentioned Washington. Lincoln she brings into play, right? Oh, let's see. Anything else? The Dharma of self-effort. The following are important factors to the Dharma of self-effort, right? So these lists, that's a great list. I would just take these. Where's the other one? Take these lists out. This one's here, right? How can I find out what kind of occupation is best suited for me? This is stuff I should probably isolate some of this stuff. I think I was talking about isolating certain key, something else for me to do. So like I'm not busy enough isolating key words, concepts, and phrases, and statements and quotes in here, kind of, right? And maybe I can add them to like the summary of each chapter. Basically take 800, whatever, 700 pages, whatever this is, 400, 500, and kind of whittle it down to its basic core terms, expressions, right? So I would, write these lists out, and kind of, if you don't know what you're doing, you don't know who you are, right? You got to find out who you are before you know what you're doing or want to do, right? So these lists look very, very helpful, right? Where's the other? Quest for harmony. Self-effort does not mean blind effort. True. The Dharma of self-effort also includes striving to know when to exercise the discrimination of acceptance and surrender to a disappointing outcome. This has happened to me. First thing I tried was nothing. I just kind of, after high school, I went to some college classes, but I never really got into anything per se, and I kind of drifted into jobs. And I got into, for some reason, got this part-time job, maybe it was full-time, but this owner of this small company he thought, I just need two kind of off the street guys who are kind of on the ball, kind of got some smarts and some motivation, and I need to come in and teach them to organize and run my business. It was a what was it? Gaskets. You know what gaskets are? Yeah, gasket manufacturing company. And me and this other guy, who was really into Quaaludes, and he ended up buying Quaaludes from my druggy roommate. Boy. But anyways, those are the old days, right? Not into drugs myself, but anyways, and we both learned how to run the office. We learned how to do cost estimation. We learned how to do expediting. We learned how to do shipping, all this stuff. We were basically running the show, taking orders, processing orders, dealing with the clients. And the boss would come in like 11, 12, 1 o'clock, see how things are going. They would call us once in a while. Yeah, how's it going? What you guys doing? We would post stuff, and he would see it, and so we were basically running that company, me and my buddy there, my druggie buddy. It was really very, very talk about. And I think that was the first real job I had after I dropped out of college the first time. When I was like, what, 19, 20? Imagine that, you're running a company with a co-partner. There's some experience. Just fell into that. But then that wasn't me, got really bored with it and moved on. Started to take some classes and get into the computer field. Then I did that for a while, and I realized, heaven help me, I got into my late 20s. I'm going, no, this is not it. Then I went into the stand-up comedy. Then I went to Boston, then LA. And then I got out of that because that was also not it and started teaching. And I'm going, oh, I think I got it. Because I love to learn. I love to write, love to teach, love to entertain, love to enlighten, right? I love to research. I mean, this is me. It's my Dharma, right? Figure it out for yourself, right? Takes work, self-effort. There it is. Tenacious determination. What's the term that somebody uses? Massive action, right? That's a good one, right? Tenacious determination. There is no quitting. Life is a school. I talked about that, right? Point 3 here. The school does not give out passing grades, but demands a perfect A from each student on every subject. Interesting, right? Yeah, you can't quit. You can't give up. Well, so you do. I mean, I did give the first thing, the computer field, like 5, 6, 7 years maybe. But I knew that wasn't it. So you have to give it some time, right? You don't just do it for 6 months. No, that's not it, right? Same thing with the stand-up. I did that 5 or 6 years or so, right? And now I've been teaching and coaching 22 years, something like that, right? All things good things come to those who strive with patience. Patience is a virtue, right? With last paragraph, with self-determination, self-effort, no one can keep you from manifesting your true destiny. Manifest destiny. Go west, young man, right? The mystery of a towering fruit tree lies dormant within a tiny seed. You know, the mustard seed, isn't that? Sorry, I have to go back to my catechism, my Catholic catechism. They talked about, in the New Testament, they talk about the mustard seed. And I guess the thing about the mustard seed is a really tiny seed turns into this huge plant, right? So that's kind of what we all have. We have these tiny seeds in us that we kind of have to tap into. That's your Dharma. That's your inner, you find that. My company is called Inner Projection. So you want to get that out, find it, discover it, grow it, right? And remember James Allen, as a man thinketh, we are a growth by nature. We're either growing or dying. Our careers are growing or dying. Our relationships are growing or dying. Our mental, physical, spiritual health is either growing or dying. This is, don't do drugs, do knowledge. Knowledge is the crack cocaine of life, my friend. Be true to yourself. True to your desires. Need is grief. And employees Dharma. So now she's giving me examples. Dharma of support. A thick-faced black heart practitioner understands that the Dharma of success includes support. True. It is essential if you wish to succeed in life to find someone, my wife, my friends, my kids, who is willing to support you unconditionally, right? Dreams, or realize that you and your mind must form your own support troops. True. Good stuff. Summary point, and then we're done, right? So next time we'll do winning through negative thinking. Thanks for coming out. I will be posting this video. What is this? I think this video will be coming out in a couple of weeks. Okay. So that's it. I will end here. Talk to you later. See you soon. Bye-bye.